My son sent me a text at 11:47 p.m. It read, "Dad, we need space. Don't visit unannounced anymore. We want peace." I stared at that glowing screen in my dark kitchen, the blue light reflecting off the scratched surface of my old oak table. Then I looked at the checkbook sitting on the counter next to my reading glasses. They wanted peace. Well, they were about to get more peace than they bargained for. Before I tell you how I gave my own son the wake-up call of his life, let me tell you who I am. I'm Richard Pierce, 58 years old. I spent 6 years in the Navy right out of high school, learned discipline and how to fix things that were broken. After discharge, I worked my way up from apprentice to union foreman over 30 years, building bridges and office towers across 3 states. My hands are still calloused from handling steel and concrete. I took early retirement last year when my back started giving me trouble. 3 decades of heavy lifting will do that to you. I raised my boy Tyler alone after my wife Sarah passed 15 years ago. Cancer took her when Tyler was just 17, still in high school. Those were the hardest years of my life, but we got through them together, or so I thought. For the last 5 years, ever since Tyler got married, I've been writing checks to keep him and his wife Ashley living like they were born rich. And all this time, they've been treating me like their personal ATM with legs. The next morning came fast. I was out in my garage, a 2-car space that I'd converted into my workshop years ago. The concrete floor was permanently stained with motor oil and sawdust. Toll pegboards covered every wall, each wrench and screwdriver in its proper place. The air always smelled like WD-40 and wood varnish, smells that reminded me of my dad's shop when I was a kid. I was working on a wooden toy chest for my grandson Noah, something I'd been building in my spare time. The garage door was open to let in the October air, and I could hear the neighbor's dog barking somewhere down Elm Street. That's when I heard tires crunching on my gravel driveway. Tyler's BMW pulled up, black, spotless, still had that new car shine. The one I'd helped him buy 2 years ago with a $15,000 loan he'd never paid back. He stepped out wearing one of his expensive suits, the charcoal gray one I'd bought him for job interviews. His shoes probably cost more than most people make in a week. He walked into my garage like he owned the place, barely glancing at the toy chest I'd been sanding. The morning light streaming through the open door caught the fine dust particles floating in the air around my workbench. "Morning, Dad," he said, not bothering to wipe his feet on the old welcome mat Sarah had put there years ago. "Got your coffee on? I'm running late for a client meeting." I watched him walk past my table, saw and drill press like they were invisible, heading straight for the side door that led into my kitchen. He moved with the confidence of a man who'd never had to worry about where his next meal was coming from. My kitchen wasn't much, just a basic galley setup with white laminate counters that Sarah and I had installed ourselves back in the 90s. The coffee pot sat on the counter next to the microwave, still half full from my morning brew. Tyler poured himself a cup in one of my Navy mugs, the one with the Anchor logo that was starting to fade. He took a sip and grimaced, making that face like he'd tasted something rotten. "You really need better coffee, Dad. This stuff tastes like motor oil." I bit my tongue. That coffee cost me $8 a can at the grocery store, not $15 a pound from some fancy coffee shop like Tyler was used to. Then he pulled out a folded paper from his inside jacket pocket, the expensive leather portfolio I'd given him last Christmas. "Listen, about last night's text. Ashley was stressed. You know how she gets when Noah has a soccer tournament. Don't take it personal." He smoothed the paper on my kitchen counter, right next to where I kept the mail and my reading glasses. The paper was crisp white letterhead from European Motors, the BMW dealership across town. "Anyway, bad timing, but the transmission on the Beamer is acting up. Took it in yesterday, and they won't release it until this invoice is paid." He slid the paper toward me, like he was dealing cards. My credit card's maxed from the vacation we booked for next month. I picked up the invoice and looked at the numbers. Parts, labor tax, $2,400 total. More money than a lot of people made in a month, and he was asking for it like he was bumming a cigarette. "I need you to handle this today, Dad. Can't drive the rental to client meetings. It's just a Camry. Looks unprofessional. You know how important image is in my business." His business, the consulting job I'd gotten him through my old Navy buddy who owned Morrison Construction. Tyler had never swung a hammer in his life, but somehow he was pulling down $85,000 a year, giving advice to contractors. I looked at that invoice, then I looked at my son. This was the same kid who texted me 8 hours ago telling me to stay away. The same kid who said they needed space. Now he was standing in my kitchen demanding money like nothing had happened. Like his words last night were just vapor that disappeared with the morning dew. I walked over to the kitchen drawer where I kept my checkbook, the same green vinyl folder I'd been using for 20 years. Tyler relaxed against my counter, already reaching for his phone to check messages. He thought the crisis was over. He thought he could insult me at midnight and collect cash by dawn, just like he'd been doing for 5 years. I pulled out my old fountain pen, a Mont Blanc that Sarah had given me for my 40th birthday. The weight of it felt solid in my hand as I opened the checkbook to a fresh page. I wrote the date minus October 15th. I wrote the dealership's name in my careful handwriting. I wrote $2,400 in the amount box, spelling it out below, $2,400 and no cents. I signed my name at the bottom with a flourish, Richard Pierce. Tyler was scrolling through his phone, probably checking his social media or texting Ashley about something. He wasn't even watching me write the check. That's how certain he was that I'd cave just like I always did. I held up that check and looked Tyler in the eye. For a second, I saw the little boy who used to help me in this same garage, handing me tools and asking questions about how engines worked. But that boy was gone, replaced by a man who took everything and gave nothing back. You said you wanted peace, son. He looked up from his phone, already reaching out his hand. Yeah, Dad, let's not rehash last night. Just give me the check so I can get out of your hair, I smiled. Not a warm smile, not the kind of smile a father gives his son. This was the kind of smile you get when you finally understand exactly how a broken machine is supposed to work, and you know exactly what tool you need to fix it. Peace is expensive, I said. Then I tore that check in half, right down the middle, the sound echoing in my small kitchen like a gunshot. Tyler's mouth dropped open as I lined up the halves and tore them again, letting the blue and white pieces flutter down to my linoleum floor like confetti. What are you doing? Tyler whispered, staring at the torn pieces scattered across my kitchen floor. Respecting your boundaries, I said, my voice steady as a level. You want to be independent. You want distance. I'm giving you all the distance you can handle. Tyler's face went from pale to red in about 2 seconds. This is insane. I have a client meeting in 2 hours. I need my car. That's a problem for the man who owns the car, I said. Since you want to be the man of your own house, you get to pay for your own transmission. He stood there in my kitchen, his expensive suit looking suddenly ridiculous against my faded yellow walls. Behind him, the morning sun was streaming through the window above my sink, highlighting the dust motes floating between us like tiny witnesses to this moment. You're punishing me because we asked for some space. I'm not punishing you, Tyler. I'm retiring. I'm retiring from being your personal bank. That's when he exploded. The words came pouring out of him like water from a burst pipe, called me petty, childish, bitter. Said I was having some kind of breakdown, that I didn't understand how the modern world worked. Said I'd never see Noah again if I didn't write another check right now. I just stood there and let him vent, watching his face get redder and redder. When he finally ran out of steam, I pointed toward the door that led back to my garage. Get out of my house, son. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Dad, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. You wanted peace? Here's your peace. Now get out. He bent down and grabbed the torn check pieces from my floor, like he could tape them back together or something. His hands were shaking as he stuffed the fragments into his pocket. Fine, he said, his voice cracking. Be a bitter old man. See if we ever invite you over again. You won't see Noah, you won't see any of us until you come to your senses and apologize for this. He stormed out through my garage, his footsteps echoing off the concrete floor. I heard his BMW start up, the engine purring like a very expensive cat. Then he backed out of my driveway fast enough to spray gravel against my garage door. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after he left, looking at the empty spot on the floor where the check pieces had been. The house felt different, quieter, but not in a bad way. It felt like the air pressure had changed, like a storm had passed and left everything clean. I walked back to my workshop and picked up the sandpaper where I'd left it. The toy chest for Noah was nearly finished, just needed a final sanding and a coat of stain. I ran my hand over the smooth pine, feeling for any rough spots. The wood was solid, built to last. Not like the flimsy particle board furniture you got at the big box stores these days. That afternoon, I made a phone call. Patricia Hoffman had been my lawyer for 25 years, ever since Sarah got sick and we needed to get our affairs in order. She'd helped me set up the family trust, handled the paperwork when I bought the house on Maple Street for Tyler and Ashley. She knew exactly where every penny of my money had gone. Richard, she said when her secretary put me through, it's been too long. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Patricia. Better than fine, actually. I need to see you today if possible. I want to review all my family financial arrangements. There was a pause on her end. Patricia was sharp as a tack. probably already guessing what this was about. Everything okay with Tyler and Ashley? Let's just say they've decided they want more independence. I'd like to help them achieve that goal. Her office was on the 31st floor of the First National Building downtown, with windows that looked out over the whole city. I'd worked on 3 of the buildings I could see from her conference room back when my knees were younger and my back was stronger. The leather chair across from her desk was the same one I'd sat in 15 years ago, when Sarah was dying, signing papers and making arrangements I'd hoped I'd never need to use. Patricia spread the files across her mahogany table like she was laying out cards for solitaire. Bank statements, trust documents, loan agreements, payment histories. The numbers were worse than I'd remembered. 5 years, she said, running her finger down a column of figures. Total expenses for Tyler and Ashley's household. Thix 612,000. I whistled low that much. Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, utilities, car payments, credit card debt, private school tuition for Noah, country club membership, vacation expenses. She flipped through the pages, plus personal loans that were never repaid. Another $47,000. She pulled out a separate folder. The house on Maple Street is owned by your family trust. Tyler and Ashley are listed as resident beneficiaries, which means they can live there at your discretion. They have no legal claim to ownership. What about Tyler's job? Patricia's smile was thin. Morrison Construction receives 85% of its operating capital from your investment portfolio. If you withdraw that funding, the company would have to shut down within 30 days. I thought about that text message. We want peace. We need space. Patricia, I said I want to give them exactly what they asked for. Draft the papers. Patricia, all of them. Notice to quit on the house. Withdrawal of investment capital from Morrison Construction. Termination of all financial support. She leaned back in her leather chair, studying my face. Richard, are you absolutely certain? Once we start this process, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The next week was the quietest I'd had in years. No emergency phone calls about broken dishwashers or overdue credit card bills. No guilt trips about other grandfathers buying their families trips to Disneyland. No panic attacks about Noah's soccer cleats or Ashley's spa appointments. Just blessed silence. My house on Elm Street felt different without the constant anxiety. I could sit on my front porch in the evenings, watching my neighbors walk their dogs without my phone buzzing every hour with some new financial crisis. The October air was crisp and clean, and the maple trees in my yard were turning brilliant shades of red and gold. I finished Noah's toy chest, applying 3 coats of cherry stain until the wood gleamed like honey. Inside, I carved his initials NTP, Noah Tyler Pierce. Whatever happened between his father and me, that boy was still my grandson, and someday he'd understand that everything I was doing was for his future. I started reading again, something I hadn't had time for in years. Picked up a biography of Harry Truman from the library, a man who knew something about making tough decisions. I cooked real meals instead of grabbing drive-thru on the way to whatever crisis Tyler had manufactured. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't walking around with that low-level stomach ache that comes from constant worry. Meanwhile, the legal machinery was grinding into motion. Patricia's office was processing papers with the efficiency of a military operation. The eviction notice would be served on Friday. Tyler's boss at Morrison Construction would receive the investment withdrawal letter on Monday morning. I'd timed it perfectly, a 1-2 punch that would hit them when they least expected it. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. The screen showed a picture of Noah that Ashley had sent me months ago, but I could see it was her number calling. "Hi, Dad, Richard," she said in that sing-song voice she used when she wanted something expensive. "We haven't heard from you all week. Everything okay? You're not sick or anything, are you?" Ashley was 29, blonde, and pretty in that high-maintenance way that required constant trips to salons and boutiques. She'd grown up middle class in Kansas, but had bigger dreams than her parents' modest ranch house could contain. Tyler was her ticket to the lifestyle she thought she deserved. "I'm fine, Ashley. Better than I've been in a long time." "Oh, good. That's such a relief." "Listen, we're finalizing plans for Noah's 9th birthday party next month. We found this incredible venue, Adventure Zone with laser tag and rock climbing walls. All his friends from Riverside Academy are coming." Riverside Academy, the private school where tuition costs more than most people's cars. "The thing is," she continued, "the deposit is due today, and we need about $3,000 for the whole event. Can you transfer that to our checking account this afternoon? The party planner needs confirmation by 5 p.m. I looked out my kitchen window at the bird feeder Sarah had hung from the oak tree. A cardinal was perched there, bright red against the autumn leaves, completely focused on cracking open a sunflower seed. "I already took care of Noah's birthday gift," I said. "Oh, wonderful. I don't see any transfer in our account yet, though. Did you send a check?" No, I put $5,000 into a $529 education fund in his name. It's locked away for college expenses. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. What do you mean, locked away? We need that money for the party, Richard. We already put down deposits. Then you and Tyler should pay for the party. That's what parents do. Her voice climbed an octave. We don't have $3,000 just sitting around. You know Tyler's salary barely covers our basic expenses. Basic expenses. Their basic expenses included a $4,500 mortgage payment, $800 car payments, and a country club membership that cost more than most people's rent. Ashley, I've been covering your basic expenses for 5 years. It's time you and Tyler learned to cover them yourselves. That's when the mask came off. The sweet voice disappeared, replaced by something sharp and ugly. You can't do this to us. We have commitments, Richard. We have a reputation to maintain. What are people going to think if we have to cancel Noah's party? I don't know, Ashley. What do you think they'll say? This is about the stupid text message, isn't it? Tyler explained that to you. I was stressed about Noah's soccer tournament. You're really going to punish an 8-year-old boy because your feelings got hurt. Noah is 9, Ashley. And no, I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting his future from parents who think money grows on trees. She started crying then. Or at least making crying noises. You're ruining everything. You're a selfish, bitter old man, and I'm going to make sure Noah knows exactly why his grandfather didn't care enough to give him a proper birthday party. You tell Noah whatever you want, but when he's 18 years old and looking at that college fund, he'll know who really cared about him. I hung up. The cardinal was still at the feeder, methodically working through the seeds. Smart bird. It knew how to take care of itself. 20 minutes later, Tyler called. I let it go to voicemail, then Ashley called again, voicemail, then Tyler again. I turned off the ringer and went back to my book. Monday morning was going to be very interesting. Monday morning arrived like a freight train. I was up at 5:30, same as always, making coffee in my quiet kitchen. The house felt different now, lighter somehow. I'd made my decision and set the wheels in motion. Now all I had to do was wait for the dominoes to fall. At exactly 9 a.m., a white FedEx truck pulled up to the house on Maple Street. I knew because my neighbor, Jim, had agreed to keep an eye on things for me. Jim was a retired postal worker who spent most of his time watching the neighborhood from his front window. He called me as soon as the truck arrived. Rick, your boy's getting some kind of official delivery. Driver's making him sign for it. The envelope contained 2 documents that would change Tyler's life forever. The first was an eviction notice, typed on Patricia's cream-colored letterhead, explaining that his status as a resident beneficiary had been revoked. He had 30 days to vacate the premises. The second document was Patricia's masterpiece, a complete accounting of every penny I'd spent on their household over 5 years. Every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every credit card payment they couldn't cover. The grand total, $659,000 at exactly 9:15 a.m. Tyler's phone started ringing. His boss at Morrison Construction was calling with terrible news. The company's primary investor had withdrawn all funding effective immediately. Morrison was shutting down Friday. Tyler would be laid off with 0 severance. I know the timing because Jim called again. Rick, your boy's standing in his driveway in his bathrobe, looking like someone just told him his dog died by 10 a.m. Both Tyler and Ashley were calling me nonstop. I was sitting on my front porch, reading Truman's biography and drinking coffee that actually tasted good. The October sun felt warm on my face. I let every call go to voicemail at noon. They showed up at my house, both of them looking like they'd aged 10 years in 3 hours. Ashley had been crying, her makeup was smeared and her hands were shaking. Tyler looked like he'd been hit by reality traveling at highway speed. I let them knock for a full minute before I opened the door. Dad, Tyler said, his voice barely above a whisper, we need to talk. What about this? He held up the eviction notice with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. You can't throw us out. We're family. You're tenants, I said. My voice calm as still water. Bad tenants who don't pay rent and don't respect the landlord. Ashley pushed forward, mascara streaking down her cheeks like war paint. This is insane, Richard. We live there. We've made it our home. You've made it your free hotel. But checkout time just arrived. Tyler's shoulders sagged like someone had cut his support cables. Dad, please. I lost my job today. We have nowhere to go. We have a child. You should have thought about Noah before you decided to bite the hand that feeds you. The conversation went in circles for 20 minutes, pleading, threatening, bargaining. Ashley even tried tears, real ones this time. But I'd made my peace with this decision days ago. What do you want from us? Tyler finally asked. Nothing, I said. That's the whole point. I want nothing from you, and I'm giving nothing to you. 3 days later, Patricia called Tyler and Ashley had contacted her office begging for a meeting. They wanted to negotiate. They're scared, Richard. Really scared. Their lawyer looks like he just passed the bar exam last week. The meeting was Patricia's conference room again, 31 floors above the city. Tyler and Ashley sat across the mahogany table with their discount attorney, a nervous kid named Peterson who kept adjusting his clip-on tie. Patricia opened her black leather folder like she was dealing cards in a high-stakes poker game. Let's discuss the facts. 5 years of financial support, $659,000. Unpaid personal loans, $47,000. Total debt, $76,000. Peterson's face went pale. Tyler put his head in his hands. However, Patricia continued, Mr. Pierce is willing to make a one-time settlement offer. Vacate the property within 7 days. Sign a complete release and the entire debt is forgiven. The room went dead quiet. I could hear the air conditioning humming and cars honking 31 floors below. Tyler looked at me across that polished table, searching for the soft-hearted father who'd always rescued him. That father was gone. How long do we have to decide? Tyler asked. You decide now, Patricia said. This offer expires when you walk out that door. Tyler's hands shook as he reached for the pen. He signed. Ashley signed. Peterson witnessed their signatures like a man signing his own execution warrant. That was 14 months ago. Tyler and Ashley divorced within 3 months. Turns out their marriage was built on my checkbook, and without it, there was nothing left. Ashley moved back to Kansas with her parents. Tyler ended up in a studio apartment working construction for my old friend Steve Bradley. The work was brutal. Manual labor, 6 a.m. start times, real sweat for honest pay. But Steve told me something interesting after Tyler's first month. Rick, your boy's got potential. Shoes up early, works hard, doesn't complain. Reminds me of someone I used to know. 6 months in, Tyler called me, not for money, not for help, just to talk. He told me about learning to frame houses, about how his hands were getting calloused from real work, about earning his first paycheck without my name on it. Dad, he said, I'm starting to understand what you were trying to teach me. What's that, son? That nothing good comes easy. That respect has to be earned. That being a man means standing on your own feet, even when it hurts. We've been talking weekly since then. Real conversations, not financial negotiations. He sends me pictures of houses he's helped build. There's pride in those messages, something I hadn't seen in years. Last week, Tyler asked if he could bring Noah by this weekend, not to ask for anything, just to let his son visit his grandfather. I said yes. Noah's 9 now, curious about everything, and he still loves that wooden toy chest I finished all those months ago. Yesterday, Tyler showed up at my door after work, still wearing his tool belt and work boots. Dad, he said, I wanted to thank you for what? For letting me fall, for letting me hit bottom, for teaching me what I was really made of. I'm Richard Pierce, 58 years old, and I spent 5 years enabling my son's weakness. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone fall completely, so they can learn to stand. Tyler lost everything he thought mattered. But in losing it all, he found something more valuable, his self-respect, and that's worth more than any check I ever wrote. Sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give isn't another check. It's the courage to let their child discover what they're truly capable of when the safety net disappears. Real love doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it builds character that lasts a lifetime, and that's something no amount of money can buy.